In the summer of 1990, a brutal crime rocked the quiet neighborhood of Pinewood, California. 9-year-old Mia Harper was found dead in the bathroom of her home, stabbed 57 times in a horrific attack that sent shockwaves through the community. Her killer? 18-year-old Lisa Sullivan, a woman with a troubled past and a deadly addiction. On June 15, 1990, Mia was home alone, waiting for her mother to return from work. She had no idea that the woman who knocked on her door that day was there to murder her. Lisa Sullivan, high on a cocktail of heroin and cocaine, was desperate for money to feed her drug habit. Mia, a bright young girl with a passion for drawing, had been the unsuspecting victim of Lisa's plan. Lisa, who had once been a casual acquaintance of Mia's older sister, tricked the little girl into letting her inside by claiming she needed to use the bathroom. Once inside, Lisa grabbed a knife from the kitchen. As Mia, innocent and trusting, was coaxed into the bathroom, Lisa struck. She stabbed the young girl more than 50 times, leaving Mia to bleed out on the bathroom floor. Lisa Sullivan initially confessed to the murder in a taped police interview, admitting she killed Mia because the girl had recognized her. Lisa claimed she was desperate for drug money and saw the robbery of the Harper home as a way to get the cash she needed. However, as the investigation unfolded, Lisa's story began to change. Later, Lisa would claim that an unknown male accomplice had forced her to stab Mia, even though no such man was ever identified. Despite her shifting story, the evidence pointed to Lisa alone. Forensic investigators found her fingerprints and blood-stained shoe prints at the crime scene. The stolen items from the Harper home, electronics, a typewriter, and jewelry, were later sold for only a few $100s. Lisa Sullivan's tragic path to murder began years earlier. Raised in the tough streets of Pinewood, she had fallen into a life of addiction at a young age. By 14, Lisa was already using drugs. By 15, she was a prostitute, struggling to survive on the streets. By the time she was 18, pregnant with her first child and already a mother of 2, Lisa's life was spiraling out of control. Her addiction to heroin and cocaine only worsened, and by 1990, Lisa was deeply involved in a cycle of drugs, crime, and violence. Desperate for a fix, Lisa saw Mia's family as an easy target. On the day of the murder, Lisa was high and out of control, unable to think rationally. The burglary quickly escalated into a senseless act of violence, one that would cost a young girl her life. The case went to trial in early 1992, and the evidence against Lisa was overwhelming. In addition to the physical evidence linking her to the crime, prosecutors presented her confession, which detailed the chilling attack on Mia. However, Lisa's defense attorney attempted to cast doubt on the case by suggesting that a mysterious accomplice might have been involved. Despite the defense's efforts to shift the blame, the jury convicted Lisa Sullivan of first-degree murder, burglary, and robbery. The prosecution argued that the murder was premeditated and that Lisa had no intention of leaving any witnesses to her crime. During the penalty phase of the trial, Lisa's mother begged the jury to spare her daughter's life, citing Lisa's troubled upbringing and addiction struggles. However, the jury ultimately voted for the death penalty, agreeing that Lisa's actions were unforgivable. In 1992, Lisa Sullivan became the first woman in Pinewood County to be sentenced to death. Judge Ronald Bennett, who oversaw the trial, called Mia Harper's murder one of the most brutal, senseless, and callous killings he had ever encountered. Lisa was sentenced to die in the state's gas chamber, a fate she would face if her appeals were exhausted. Mia's mother, Linda Harper, expressed a mix of relief and sorrow after the sentencing. While she was glad that Lisa would face the consequences of her actions, the pain of losing her daughter would never go away. Mia, described as a kind-hearted and artistic girl, had been full of dreams for her future. She had wanted to become an artist and loved to draw. But that future was stolen by a woman who chose drugs over human life. Over the years, Lisa Sullivan's defense team continued to appeal her death sentence, citing her troubled past and addiction as mitigating factors. In 2007, the California Supreme Court upheld her conviction, affirming that the death penalty was justified in her case. Lisa's case continued to make headlines as it made its way through the federal court system. Yet, no matter the legal battles, the facts of the case remained clear. Lisa had taken the life of a young, innocent girl in a senseless act of violence. As Lisa Sullivan remains on death row, her story serves as a tragic reminder of the consequences of addiction and violence. The murder of Mia Harper, a bright young girl with her whole life ahead of her, will never be forgotten. For Mia's family, the pain of her loss is something they carry with them every day. And for Lisa Sullivan, the life she chose led her to death row, a fate she alone created. The case of Mia Harper's murder is one of the most heartbreaking stories in Pinewood County's history. But even now, after decades of legal battles and courtroom drama, questions still linger. Will justice truly be served? Will Lisa Sullivan ever truly face the horrors of what she did? Only time will tell.